My sister took my daughter's prom dress and cut it up for her kid's Halloween costume. Mom said it was just fabric. I said, you're right. Then I called my lawyer and canceled the $34,000 Sweet 16 party I'd planned for her daughter. When the venue called her to confirm, "Hello everyone, my name is Megan Carter. I'm 39 years old, and 3 weeks before my daughter's Sweet 16, my sister took my daughter's prom dress without permission, cut it apart, and turned it into a Halloween costume for her own daughter. When I confronted my mother about it, she looked at me like I was being ridiculous. It's just fabric, Megan." I stared at her. That dress meant something to Lily. Mom shrugged. She's 16, she'll get over it. I looked at the pieces of blue satin scattered across the sewing table. Then I looked at my mother and calmly said, "You're right. It is just fabric." I walked away. What nobody knew was that I had been secretly planning a $34,000 Sweet 16 party for my sister's daughter, Emily. I'd already paid the deposits. I'd booked the venue, caterer, photographer, live band, and everything else. And after what happened to Lily's dress, I canceled every single thing. I didn't tell my sister. I didn't warn my mother. I simply canceled it. A few days later, the venue called Jessica to confirm the cancellation. And that was when my sister finally discovered that the woman she'd treated like her personal safety net had quietly stopped holding her up. But to understand why I made that decision, you need to know what that dress meant to my daughter. My daughter Lily was 16. She was quiet, creative, and completely obsessed with fashion. She didn't care about expensive brands. She cared about details. She loved old movies and spent hours sketching dresses in notebooks. So when prom season arrived, finding the right dress became a serious project. We visited several stores before she found it. It was a beautiful deep blue satin dress with delicate detailing and an open back. The moment Lily stepped out of the fitting room, she looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. "Mom, I love it." I smiled. "Then it's yours." It wasn't cheap, but I didn't care. I'd never forget the expression on her face. She carefully carried the garment bag home and hung the dress inside her closet. For months she talked about prom, her shoes, her hairstyle, the photographs she wanted, everything. Then my older sister Jessica came over with her daughter Emily. Emily was 16 too, and she was preparing for Halloween. She wanted to dress as a princess. Jessica started searching around the house for material. I didn't think much of it until I heard Lily scream, "Mom!" I ran upstairs. Lily was standing in the hallway with tears in her eyes. "My dress." I followed her into the sewing room and stopped. Her blue prom dress was spread across the table, except it wasn't a dress anymore. The sleeves had been cut off. The skirt had been separated. Several sections had already been cut into pieces. Jessica was holding scissors. Emily was standing beside her. My mother was helping pin the fabric. I stared at them. "What did you do?" Jessica looked surprised. "Oh, we were going to tell you. You cut Lily's prom dress?" Jessica shrugged. Emily needed fabric for her costume. I looked at Lily. She was shaking. "You took it without asking." Jessica rolled her eyes. "I didn't think it would be a big deal." Lily's voice cracked. "That was my dress." Emily immediately said, "I thought you weren't using it yet." Lily looked at her. "That doesn't mean you can take it." Mom stepped in. "Enough." She looked at me. "Don't make this into a family fight." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, she took my daughter's dress and destroyed it. It can be replaced." "That's not the point." Mom sighed. "It's just fabric." Lily looked at me. I could see the tears running down her face. She quietly said, "I wanted that one." Then she walked away. I followed her to her room. She shut the door. I sat beside her. "I'll get you another one." She shook her head. "I don't want another one. I wanted that dress." "I know." She wiped her eyes. "Why does everyone always act like Emily's things are more important than mine?" I didn't have an answer. Because the truth was, she wasn't imagining it. Jessica had always been treated differently in our family. If she needed money, Mom helped. If Emily needed something, everyone was expected to contribute. A few months earlier, I'd overheard Mom complaining that Jessica couldn't afford the kind of Sweet 16 celebration she wanted for Emily. I decided to help, not because Jessica asked. She didn't. I just thought Emily deserved a special birthday. So I quietly started planning. I found a beautiful private venue, booked a caterer, reserved a live band, hired a photographer, ordered a custom cake, even arranged a small fireworks display. The total came to almost $34,000. I paid the deposits myself. My plan was to surprise Jessica. I wanted her to walk into the venue and realize that everything had already been taken care of. After what happened to Lily, that plan suddenly felt very different. That night, I opened my laptop. I pulled up the event contract. For a few seconds, I stared at the cancellation button. Then I thought about Lily's face. I thought about Mom saying, "It's just fabric." And I clicked, "Cancel event." The confirmation appeared. I closed my laptop. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel victorious. I simply felt finished. The next morning, Mom called. "Are you still upset?" I knew exactly what she meant. About Lily's dress. Yes, yes. Mom sighed. "Megan, Jessica didn't mean anything by it. She took something without permission. She needed fabric. She could have bought fabric. You're making this bigger than it needs to be." I remembered the dress. Maybe. Mom became irritated. "You need to stop being so sensitive." I looked toward Lily's room, then calmly said, "You're right. You're right about everything." Mom seemed satisfied. Good. I hung up. She had no idea what I'd already done. 3 days later, I received a call from the event venue. "Hi, Megan. We're calling regarding the Suite 16 reservation for Emily Carter." "Yes?" "We wanted to confirm a few details. The event has been canceled." There was a pause. "Yes, we see that." "Then why are you calling me?" "We're actually calling because Jessica contacted us." My stomach tightened. What did she want? She wanted to confirm the guest count and menu. I almost laughed. She doesn't know. Know what? That the event is canceled. The coordinator became quiet. She sounded very surprised when we told her. I smiled faintly. I imagined she was. Then the coordinator asked, "Would you like us to explain anything to her?" "No. Just tell her the reservation was canceled by the person who paid for it. That's all." That evening, my phone exploded. "Jessica, Mom, Dad." Jessica called 3 times, then left a voicemail. I played it. Her voice was furious. "Megan, what did you do? You canceled Emily's party. You had no right." I deleted it. Then Mom called. I answered. Her first words were, "Did you really cancel the Suite 16? "Yes." "Why?" I looked out the window. "Because I wanted to. You can't do that to Emily." I almost laughed. "Mom, I was the one paying for it." "That doesn't matter." "Apparently it does now." She went silent. Then she said, "You're punishing an innocent child." I shook my head. "No. I'm refusing to keep giving things to people who don't respect me or my daughter." Mom's voice became cold. "This is unbelievable." I remembered her words. "It's just fabric." So I answered quietly, "You were right, Mom." "What?" "It was just fabric." "And apparently, so was the party." Silence. Then Mom whispered, "Megan." I ended the call. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty, but I knew the real confrontation hadn't happened yet. Because Jessica wasn't going to accept losing $34,000 quietly. And the next morning, she showed up at my front door. She wasn't alone. Mom was standing beside her. Jessica was holding the original event contract. She looked furious, and before I could say anything, she raised the papers and said, "You are going to reinstate this party." I looked at her, then at Mom, then slowly opened my front door wider. Because if they thought the canceled party was the biggest consequence of what they'd done, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Sometimes, people only understand the value of your generosity after you stop giving it to them. And when my sister and mother stood outside my door demanding that I restore the $34,000 celebration I'd paid for, I realized they still hadn't understood the real reason I'd canceled it. Jessica stood on my porch, holding the event contract. Mom stood beside her. Jessica looked furious. "You are going to reinstate this party." I looked at the papers in her hand. "No." She blinked. "What?" "No. You can't cancel Emily's birthday because you're angry at me." "I'm not angry." "Then why did you do it?" I looked at Mom. "Because you both told me that what belonged to my daughter was meaningless." Jessica shook her head. "This has nothing to do with Lily." "It has everything to do with Lily. You are seriously comparing a dress to a $34,000 party." I smiled. "No. I'm comparing how you treated something important to my daughter with how you're treating something important to yours." Mom immediately interrupted. "Megan, Emily is innocent." "I know. Then don't punish her." "I'm not. You're ruining her birthday." I looked at Jessica. "Then you should have planned one." Jessica's face went red. "You know I can't afford that." "I know. That's why you were paying." "Yes. Then why would you take it away?" I stared at her. Because I finally realized I was spending $34,000 on a family that couldn't respect a dress. Silence. Jessica looked away. Mom folded her arms. "You've become incredibly selfish." I nodded. "Maybe. But at least now I'm selfish with my own money." Jessica stepped closer. "You promised Emily." "I never promised her anything." "You were going to." "But I didn't." She looked stunned. Then she said something that made me understand exactly how entitled she'd become. "Family doesn't do this to each other." I laughed softly. "Family doesn't take a 16-year-old girl's dress and cut it into pieces either." Jessica had no answer. She left furious. Mom stayed behind. She looked at me with disappointment. I raised you better than this. I looked at her. Did you? She frowned. What does that mean? It means you taught me to share, to help, to forgive. But you never taught Jessica that she has to respect what belongs to other people. Mom looked away. I continued, and you taught me that if someone in the family needs something, I should sacrifice. That's not what I taught you. It is. I took a breath. And I'm done. Mom's eyes filled with tears. You're really willing to hurt Emily over this? No. I'm willing to stop pretending I'm responsible for everyone else's happiness. She left without saying another word. I closed the door. For the first time, I felt peaceful. That afternoon, Lily came downstairs. Mom, yeah? Is the party really canceled? I nodded. She looked nervous. Did you do it because of me? I immediately shook my head. No. Then why? I sat beside her. Because sometimes, people need to learn that other people's generosity isn't an unlimited resource. She thought about that, then asked, does that mean Emily won't get a party? That's not your responsibility. She nodded, then surprised me by saying, I feel bad for her. I smiled. That's because you're kind, but I don't feel bad about the dress anymore. I looked at her. Why? She shrugged. Because I realized it wasn't the dress that mattered. What mattered? You cared that they hurt me. My eyes filled with tears. I pulled her into a hug. Always. A week later, something unexpected happened. Jessica called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Hello. She was quiet, then said, I found the dress. My heart stopped. What? The pieces? What about them? I took them to a seamstress. I didn't say anything. She said some of it can be repaired. I closed my eyes. How much? Almost all of it. I didn't know what to say. Jessica continued. I shouldn't have taken it. No. I shouldn't have cut it. No. And Mom shouldn't have told you it was just fabric. I sat quietly. Why are you telling me this? Because I owe Lily an apology. That surprised me. Can she hear it? Jessica came over later that afternoon. She brought the repaired dress. It wasn't perfect. There were still visible seams where the fabric had been cut, but the dress was recognizable again. Jessica stood in front of Lily. I'm sorry. Lily looked at her. You ruined it. I know. Why did you do it? Jessica looked embarrassed. Because I thought Emily's costume was more important. Lily looked at the dress, then said, it wasn't yours. Jessica nodded. I know that now. Lily didn't hug her. She didn't forgive her immediately. She simply accepted the dress, and I was proud of her. A few months later, Emily's Sweet 16 arrived. There was no $34,000 party. Jessica hosted a smaller celebration at their home. It was simple. Food, music, friends, a homemade cake, and surprisingly, Emily loved it. I wasn't there, not because I was angry, because I understood that the party was no longer my responsibility. But I did send Emily a gift, a beautiful necklace, and a card that said, Happy birthday. I hope 16 is the beginning of a wonderful chapter for you. I didn't mention the canceled party. I didn't mention the dress. Children shouldn't have to carry the consequences of adults' mistakes. Months later, Lily finally went to prom. She wore the blue dress. The repaired seams were barely visible. Before she left, she stood in front of the mirror. I took photographs. She smiled. Mom? Yeah? Do you think it looks okay? I laughed. You look beautiful. She smiled, then turned toward me. Thank you for standing up for me. I kissed her forehead. Always. That night, I realized the dress had taught me something I hadn't expected. It wasn't about fabric. It was about respect. Epilogue. A year has passed since that day. My relationship with Jessica is different now. We're not suddenly best friends. We still disagree, but she asks before taking things. She doesn't assume I'll pay for everything. And most importantly, she understands that my daughter deserves the same respect as everyone else's children. Mom changed too. Not overnight, but eventually, she apologized to Lily. She told her, I shouldn't have called your dress just fabric. Lily accepted the apology. I did too, but I never forgot what happened. Because forgiveness doesn't mean pretending something never happened. It means choosing not to let it control you. As for the $34,000, I didn't lose it. I redirected it. I put a portion into Lily's college fund. I invested another portion, and I used some of it to take Lily on a special mother-daughter trip after graduation. A trip she chose herself. No family votes, no one telling us what mattered, just the two of us. Looking back, I don't regret canceling that party, not because I wanted Emily to suffer. I didn't. I canceled it because generosity without boundaries eventually becomes expectation. And once people expect you to provide something, they stop seeing it as a gift. They start seeing it as something they are entitled to. My sister thought I was taking away a birthday party. My mother thought I was being selfish. But what I was really doing was teaching my family that my kindness has limits. And my daughter learned something too. She learned that her feelings matter, that her belongings deserve respect, and that she never has to stay silent just because someone calls themselves family. Sometimes, the most important thing a parent can give a child isn't a perfect dress or an expensive party. It's the certainty that when someone crosses a line, someone will stand beside them and say, "That wasn't okay."